Road trip. Most of you have been on one. It brings back so many memories. As you may have noticed, my family's here, and they came from all over. And most of them came on road trips. Washington State, New Jersey, and then Christina decided to fly. I don't know. She couldn't make it by road to here from Slovenia. But I can just imagine the scenes, the drama, the side trips and everything that you guys experienced on the way. I saw some pictures. It just reminds me of a tradition that the Tells have. It brings back memories of spilled chocolate milk. Well, spilled might be an understatement. Car sicknesses, no vacancies. That 69 Chevy Malibu station wagon, man, it saw a lot of miles with a lot of tells in there. Once we drove from home in Washington to California with 9 people in that station wagon. I think it only sat like 6. Laps. Where was I? Adventure. And the destination was usually about family. It's nice to see the tradition continue. This time to Colorado. I bet you all have some stories you could tell about your own road trips. Please, let's turn to Acts 27:1. A road trip resembles a journey through life. Sometimes there's sun shining down on us, and sometimes the road's marked with suffering. But that's the way the journey of life is. And as we continue in Acts, Paul's preparing to go on a journey to Rome. It may seem like he's being forced. He's chained like a criminal. He's guarded. But it is exactly where Paul wanted to be, because it was God's will. He was in custody for arraignment with Caesar's court. After the Jewish leaders attacked Paul in the Jerusalem temple, he was whisked to Caesarea by Roman soldiers to protect him from a group of men who vowed that they would kill him. In Caesarea, he spent 2 years waiting for a decision. Festus, the new governor or judge over the region, asked Paul if he would go to Jerusalem after a trial came up with the Sanhedrin again, saying, "This man ought not to live." And Festus says, "Well, they want to have another trial for you, Paul." And Paul knew what the trial was about, but also from Caesarea to Jerusalem, they had arranged for another time where they could ambush Paul and kill him. Paul appealed to Caesar. And that's where Festus decided Paul would go. There's a whole lot of drama going on in life. Life is a drama, isn't it? Life's also a voyage. And as Paul is chained and placed on the ship for Rome, with a crew of passengers that number around 275, in one of their shipwrecks he listed 276. But I am sure that you all can relate as you go through your journey with life, with the co-passengers. Some of them may be criminals. Some of them may be, this is the greatest person that I can ever journey through life with. But you go through life in your journey, and you have your ups and downs. You all have to deal with drama. Some of it you create. Some of it you just endure. You have a destiny, though, through the drama, through the judgments, through the trials. through the chains and through the decisions of others and through the storms. Somehow, through all of what seems like total chaos, God is bringing you to his destination. Our sovereign Lord is in complete control. This knowledge of hope gives hope for a perfect destiny, the destiny for the Christian journey. My hope is that of Paul, that you journey as a Christian with this destiny, leading you to be forever with his family. Family is a great destination. It's going to be a great time in heaven forever. In Acts 27, let's start with verse 1. When it was decided that we would sail for Italy, Paul and some other prisoners were handed over to a centurion named Julius, who belonged to the imperial regiment. We boarded a ship for Adramyttium, about to sail for ports along the coast of the province of Asia. And we put out to sea. Aristarchus, a Macedonian from Thessalonica, was with us. The next day we landed at Sidon, and Julius, in kindness to Paul, allowed him to go to his friends so that they might provide for his needs. From there we put out to sea again and passed to the lee of Cyprus because the winds were against us. When we had sailed across the open sea off the coast of Cilicia and Pamphylia, we landed at Myra in Lycia. There the centurion found an Alexandrian ship sailing for Italy and put us on board. We made slow headway for many days and had difficulty arriving off Cnidus. When the wind did not allow us to hold our course, we sailed for the lee of Crete, opposite Salmone. We moved along the coast with difficulty and came to a place called Fair Havens, near the town of Lasea. Much time had been lost, and sailing had already become dangerous because by now it was after the fast. So Paul warned them, "Men, I see that our voyage is going to be disastrous and bring great loss to ship and cargo and to our own lives also." But the centurion, instead of listening to what Paul said, followed the advice of the pilot and the owner of the ship. Now this reminds me of our family trip to Yellowstone. I'm going to put you guys on the spot today. The 7 of us left the dairy in the capable hands of one of our neighbors and drove and drove and drove. 7 hours or so later, we came to our Fair Haven, at least what our kids thought was a Fair Haven, Spokane, Washington, where there was hotels with pools in it. And, we did our thing. We need to stay at a hotel with a pool. When you got 5 kids, you need to stay at a hotel with a pool. All right? But, and I think even us kids even made some warnings like Paul. If we don't stop here and get a hotel with a pool, this journey is going to be disastrous. But the centurion, Dad, wanted to go on. So in the car we stayed and made it to Missoula. And by the time we got to Missoula, it was getting too late for pool time. And not only that, there was a downpour. And so we were going through Missoula, and not only were there no hotels available with no pools, there was no hotels available. All of them were no vacancy. Disaster. So we kept going in the car, and finally we just kept going until we couldn't drive no longer, and there was a campground, and we all 7 of us slept in that station wagon. Our prediction came to fruition. We made it through, though. And so did Paul on his ship. We'll get to that a little bit later. But what about Fair Haven? We tend to get so busy in life. We're so in a hurry that we don't take time to camp at Fair Havens. When tomorrow We call it Monday. When Monday rolls around, the working world, and when school starts, the students, they don't want to camp at today. No, they got this idea that, oh, can't wait till Friday. You know? Everybody can't wait till Friday. What about Monday? You know, TJIF or TGIF is not a biblical concept. You know, don't be like the centurion. If you don't camp out at today, tomorrow is going to be a disaster. The journey is going to be a disaster. Take time to smell the roses today. Right now. You know, right now is not going to get any better than this. You know, that air conditioner is not going to turn on today. But it's not going to get any better than this. Are you following me? Please, let's turn to Philippians 4, verse 9. And keep your finger in Acts, because we're going to get back to Acts 27. I was at a rest home a couple of weeks ago, which for them is their fair haven. Their now is not going to get any better than now. We get in such a hurry for a better day, a better pay, a better place, that we don't enjoy the present. And pretty soon you look back on your life and you say, where did it go? You know, oh, if you could just live out a few of those Mondays the way God intended you to live in the present. You know, when you don't enjoy the present, the future will be a disaster. It's like chasing after the end of the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Tomorrow never comes. Contentment is not available over there, where the greener pastures is. It's a myth. Tomorrow never comes. Contentment is not available over there on such and such a day with so and so, or when you accomplish or acquire. You know, you can fill in the blank. Contentment is only available now, with the people you are sitting with now, and listening to the preacher who's preaching to you now. If you're not content with the now, in the current circumstance, you will not find lasting contentment somewhere else. Paul, the one who warned of impending disaster to the centurion who lived in the fair haven of life. You know, he may have been chained like a criminal, been shipwrecked, beat, stoned. He was even fed to the lions, whipped. But in every situation he found himself in, at that time, he lived in the fair haven through the storms of life. And he lived through those storms in that fair haven of faith. His faith never shipwrecked. His life was not a disaster. And he's warning you as well to port in that fair haven, to follow his example, and it will go well. In Philippians 4:9, this is Paul speaking. And he says, whatever you have learned or received or heard from me or seen in me, put into practice, and the God of peace will be with you. I rejoice greatly in the Lord that at last you have renewed your concern for me. Indeed, you have been concerned, but you had no opportunity to show it. I am not saying this because I am in need, for I have learned to be content, whatever the circumstances. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. I can do everything through Him who gives me strength. I can do everything through Him who gives me strength. I can do everything through Him who gives me strength. I mean, if that's pretty close to your favorite verse. I mean, a lot of people use this verse to set goals for the future. You know, I can do this. I can be a better person. I can get that job. I can get that place. But you know, if you really put this in context, it's not talking about advancing in life and looking for a better tomorrow. It's being content with today. You know, I believe we need to set goals and aim for the mark. But the context of this verse of I can do everything through Him who gives me strength is not talking about goal setting or living a better life. It's talking about contentment in the now. No matter what the circumstance you're now is finding yourself in, you can be content in every situation because you can do everything through Christ who gives you strength. You know, the passage that Ken read earlier this morning out of Proverbs 19, it said that what a man desires is unfailing love. Better to be poor than a liar. The fear of the Lord leads to life. Then one rests content, untouched by trouble. Let's turn back to Acts 27, and we'll repeat verse 11. You know, those are the good words of wisdom from the Proverbs. You know, I'm not going to ask you what you want. I'm going to tell you what you want. What you want, what you desire is everlasting love, unfailing love. Again, what you really, really want is unfailing love. You have that now. Nothing can separate you from the love of Christ. The favorable winds of wealth, opportunity, progress, etc., they lure you away from the fair haven. You know, let's just peek again at Acts from where we left off. At verse 11. But the centurion, instead of listening to what Paul said, followed the advice of the pilot and the owner of the ship. Since the harbor was unsuitable to winter in, the majority decided that we should sail on. Hoping to reach Phoenix and winter there, this was the harbor in Crete, facing both southwest and northwest. When a gentle south wind began to blow, they thought they had obtained what they wanted. So they weighed anchor and sailed along the shore of Crete. Before very long, a wind of hurricane force called the nor'easter swept down from the island. And the ship was caught by the storm and could not head into the wind, so we gave way to it and were driven along. Again, they thought they had obtained what they wanted. Proverbs said that a man's true desire is unfailing love. You know, why is it that so many find God's unfailing love unsuitable? You know, it doesn't fit their lifestyle. It cramps their style. You know, they hope to reach Phoenix. You know, it sounds a lot like Phoenix, Arizona, doesn't it? Phoenix is a great place to winter at. The Phoenix for the crew of that ship, the Alexandrian ship, was a great place to winter at. You know, Phoenix may be the snowbird capital of the United States. Contrary to the snowbird, however, the phoenix is a mythical bird in Greek mythology. You know, they hoped to reach Phoenix, but they never got there. It didn't happen. Phoenix is a myth. Please, let's turn to Romans 8, verse 5. Fair Harbor was no myth. It was safe, but it was unsuitable to winter in. Where are you at today? Are your current life circumstances unsuitable to you? If what a man desires is unfailing love, how come we chase after other stuff? It's not just a few that do that. On Paul's ship, it was the captain and the majority of the ship. They wanted to sail on. We don't want this podunk town of Lale, whatever. We want to go to Phoenix. We want to move on. Life has got to be better than this. For a moment, there's contentment. For a moment, the billows and the sails, they fill with the wind and the sun shining down on you, and you're going and it feels great. We've obtained what we want. Sin is fun for a season. Didn't last. Paul had a vision ahead, and it was disaster. If they would proceed, in the same way you are warned not to sail something more suitable for you. Don't live for Friday unless it's Friday. Don't live for tomorrow when you can live life in the fullness of God's love today. Your true desire is unfailing love. Put on that suit. It may look unsuitable to you, but it's a perfect fit. Trust the Word of God. This unfailing love of God is like that supernatural, flexible armor. And when it is put on or adorned, there will not ever be an unsuitable circumstance when it is called today. Romans 8, verse 5. It says, those who live according to the sinful nature have their minds set on what that nature desires. But those who live in accordance with the Spirit have their minds set on what the Spirit desires. The mind of the sinful man is death, but the mind controlled by the Spirit is life and peace. The sinful mind is hostile to God. It does not submit to God's law, nor can it do so. Those controlled by the sinful nature cannot please God. You, however, are controlled not by the sinful nature, but by the Spirit, if the Spirit of God lives in you. And if anyone does not have the Spirit of Christ, he does not belong to Christ. But if Christ is in you, your body is dead because of your sin, because of sin. Yet your spirit is alive because of righteousness. If Christ is in you, your body is dead because of sin, yet your spirit is alive because of righteousness. Contentment in Fairhaven is by no means an apathy in your walk with Christ. You have a journey to go on. But having that suit, wearing that love of Christ, His righteousness, being clothed with His righteousness, takes you through those storms. And it even brings you to those mountaintops. And it makes life a whole lot better. There's a journey in the midst of the storms, the dramas, the no vacancies, the sleepless nights. The Fairhaven is that perfect suit of love of God, of the love of God protecting you, clinging to you, comforting you, and bringing you safely to completeness in Christ's journey and to His eternal dwelling. Dwell in the love of God, and do not set your heart anymore on the myth of what the sinful nature desires. Avoid disaster and be content with the fair haven of God's wonderful love today. Let's pray.